Hello, welcome to the first of two podcasts for mentors and class teachers for our Year 3 school experience. My name's Alison Hales, I'm the Year 3 school experience lead, and I'll be taking you through this podcast, and I'll also be in contact with you on a regular basis to make sure that you have all the information that you need. I'll be available to answer any questions or queries that you may have to ensure that our students are successful and you have a successful experience with our students. The podcast is just to give you a brief overview of the Year 3 school experience and to signpost you to essential information that you may need. We will also tell you where to find other information that will help and support you as the placement progresses. So, for example, we have a series of guidance notes and vidcasts and podcasts which are aimed at things such as giving feedback, setting targets, writing interim and final reports. Details of those can be found on the last slide of this podcast. I'd like to introduce you to some key contacts that you may need. The first being the Link tutor, who will be your prime contact. The students will have their details and would have already shared them with you, and the Link tutor will be the person that will answer school specific questions, queries, and will be the person that will be coming in to support both mentors, class teachers and students, as well as completing a joint observation. My details are there. I'm most easily contacted via my email, and I do look at emails inside and outside of the office, so I will answer as quickly as I can. You also have Michael's details there. He's our primary partnership lead, and Becky Dixon, who has the strategic role in the administration of our placements and partnership. Firstly, I'd like to say thank you. We know that you work incredibly hard, not just during school experience time, but also at other points of the year with our students. And we know that it's a big commitment and undertaking to have a final year student in your class. We couldn't achieve the outcomes that we do or that the students do without the expertise and the support that they get from our partnership schools. We're really excited about our Year 3s. They achieved very well in Year 2, and we're really confident that us working together and them having the experience with you in your school and in your class, that we're going to have a group of very competent, very confident young teachers who will have not only made an impact on the progress of the children in your class, but also the progress of children's learning in the future. Already we have had lots of lovely feedback from students saying how well the first few days have gone, how they've been made to feel extremely welcome, and that they already feel part of the team. And we know that this is really, really important, as it sets the tone for the rest of the school experience and can have a real impact on their overall confidence, their development and the outcomes. They would have brought with them a brown envelope which contains all the information that you should need for the school experience, and I'm just going to alert you to some of the material in there. The first being the school experience guide, which gives the overview of the requirements and expectations for the experience, and sets out key tasks, etc., that the student will need to undertake during the forthcoming weeks. I'll refer a bit more to this in the slides. The other two important documents are the Primary Partnership Handbook, which gives an overview of our principles and expectations of us working in partnership. It also sets out the principles for the assessment for our students during their experience and gives further guidance in terms of that assessment. The teaching standards have again been reviewed this year, and the layout we hope is much more user friendly. You will see that the standards have been divided into the different phases of phase 1, 2 and 3, and our students will be working at phase 3 of the standards for their final practice. The standards are in bullet points and clearly shows what a good practice looks like, what outstanding practice looks like for each of the standards. It's also really useful in order to identify gaps and to set targets to enable students to improve their practice as they develop. The School Experience 3 builds on School Experience 2, and this week we hope that your students will have been working with groups of children and already would have begun some whole class teaching in terms of perhaps some team teaching or taking parts of the lesson, if not whole sessions. We'd really like this to be built on next week, and by the end of week 2 we'd hope that the student will be taking full responsibility for the planning and teaching of your class, obviously with your support. This is dependent on their confidence and their ability and your professional judgment as to whether they may need to work for a little bit longer with groups of children or whether they are ready to take on that whole class responsibility. In the School Experience Guide, you'll find the key tasks that are required for each week on page 15, and the important tasks relating to TS5 and TS6 on page 16 and 17. These tasks will help the students compile their portfolio that will be needed for TS5, and your student is very aware of those requirements and will discuss and talk you through those. On page 6 there are tasks relating to pupil progress and are designed to help students ensure that progress and pupil progress in your class is happening. The tracking of the children can be found on page 17, and again this will help students gather evidence for TS6 particularly, and gives indication of curriculum coverage and the children that they do actually need to track. We would ask that the students meet weekly with their mentor and class teachers, and I'll talk a bit more about that on the next slide. The last requirement is the observations that we would like to be undertaken, and we'd ask for a minimum of 4 observations, and one of these being a joint observation with the linked tutor. Clearly, I know that many of you, many students will have more observations than just the minimum, and that's great, as we know that the more support and guidance they get, and the greater the impact on their development. Students have been asked to be very proactive in terms of arranging the weekly progress meetings, and they've also been told that they will need to come prepared with their weekly evaluation. This will enable both yourselves and the student to discuss and review progress and the learning of not only the student but actually of the progress of the children in your class during that week. They've been asked to ensure that they have their teaching file available, accessible and up to date for you to have a look through, and for you to be able to support the students in ensuring that evidence towards the standards are going in there, ready to compile their bundle of evidence during week 7 onto PebblePad, which I'll talk a little bit more about in the next podcast. It's also an opportunity to monitor and assess the achievement of those standards using the grade descriptors, and to begin to highlight any gaps and set targets in order to ensure that students are having a good and outstanding practice. This slide just outlines what I'm going to cover in the next podcast, and I'm going to leave you with the final slide, which will alert you to some of the guidance and information that we have that will support you throughout the placement. It also, just to remind you, that I'll be sending out the weekly bulletins, which will also have essential information on, and you have your link tutor that will be available also via email or to come in. Just to remind you that there is a link tutor and mentor development meeting on the 2nd of February, and I hope to see all of you there if you can on that evening.